Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the research vessel New Horizon and watched the stars through the main viewport. His ship floated in the darkness near Proxima Centauri, where strange energy readings had been detected 3 days ago. The crew worked quietly at their stations while Dr. Lisa Harper studied the data on her screen. "Captain, I'm getting something unusual here," Lisa said as she looked up from her console. "These energy signatures don't match anything we've seen before." Jake walked over to her station and examined the readings. The patterns were unlike solar radiation or cosmic background noise. They seemed organized and deliberate. "Could be natural phenomena we haven't discovered yet," he suggested. Lisa shook her head. "Sir, these patterns repeat every 47 minutes. Nature doesn't work with that kind of precision." Before Jake could respond, the ship's communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster, called out from her station. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the same direction as those energy readings." Jake felt his heart rate increase. First contact with alien life had been humanity's dream for centuries. "Put it on the main screen, Amy." The view screen flickered and showed a face that was definitely not human. The being had gray skin, large black eyes, and a mouth that seemed too small for its head. When it spoke, the universal translator struggled to process the alien language. "Primitive species of the third planet," the alien said in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against stone. "You will identify yourselves immediately." Jake stepped forward and tried to keep his voice calm. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We come in peace and hope to establish friendly relations with your people." The alien's expression didn't change. "We are the Vorthak Collective. Your species has been evaluated and found inferior. You will surrender your planet within 72 hours or face extermination." The bridge fell silent. Jake felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was not the peaceful first contact that humanity had hoped for. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're explorers and scientists. We mean no harm to anyone." "There is no misunderstanding," the Vorthak replied. "Your species occupies territory that we require. You have 71 hours and 37 minutes remaining." The transmission ended and the view screen returned to showing empty space. Jake stared at the stars for a moment before turning to his crew. "Amy, get me Admiral Ben Clark on Earth immediately." "Lisa, I want everything you can tell me about these aliens from that transmission." While Amy worked to establish communication with Earth, Lisa analyzed the brief contact. "Captain, their technology is far beyond ours. The signal came from at least 12 light-years away but reached us instantly. They have faster-than-light communication that we can't even theorize about." The main screen activated again and Admiral Ben Clark's weathered face appeared. The old military man looked tired but alert. "Jake, we received your emergency transmission. Tell me this is some kind of joke." "I wish it was, Admiral. We made contact with a hostile alien species called the Vorthak Collective. They've given us less than 72 hours to evacuate Earth or they'll destroy us." Admiral Clark was quiet for a long moment. "Do you believe they have the capability to carry out this threat?" "Based on what we've seen, yes, sir. Their communication technology alone suggests they're centuries ahead of us." "Understood. I'm convening an emergency session with President Helen Carter and world leaders. Jake, I need you to gather everything you can about these aliens. Any information might help us." The communication ended and Jake turned back to his crew. Lisa had been working frantically at her console while listening to the conversation. "Captain, I've been monitoring their energy signatures. There are at least 50 ships out there, and they're all massive. Each one is probably 10 times the size of our largest warships." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Earth's entire space fleet consisted of maybe 30 ships, most of them exploratory vessels like the New Horizon. They were completely outgunned. On Earth, President Helen Carter sat in the emergency bunker beneath the White House, surrounded by military advisors and world leaders connected by secure video links. Admiral Clark had briefed everyone on the situation and now they faced an impossible choice. "Madam President," said General Paul Richards, "our defense satellites are tracking multiple objects approaching the outer solar system. They're moving faster than anything we thought possible." President Carter looked around the room at the faces of people who had spent their careers preparing for every possible threat to humanity. None of them had prepared for this. "Admiral Clark, what are our options?" "Honestly, Madam President, our options are limited. We can try to evacuate as many people as possible to Mars and the moon colonies, but we only have transport capacity for maybe 50 million people." We can attempt to negotiate with these aliens, though they don't seem interested in talking. Or we can fight. Fight with what? Asked the British Prime Minister through the video link. You said yourself they have technology far beyond ours. Admiral Clark nodded grimly. That's correct. But sometimes you fight even when you can't win. Back on the New Horizon, Jake watched as alien ships began appearing throughout the solar system. They moved with purpose and precision that suggested military organization. Lisa had been monitoring their communications and the news wasn't good. Captain, they're positioning ships around all our major population centers. Earth, Mars, the moon colonies, even the asteroid mining stations. It's like they know exactly where we live and how we're organized. How is that possible? Jake asked. They must have been watching us for a long time. This isn't a random attack. It's a planned invasion. The first alien ships reached Earth's orbit 18 hours before the deadline. They were enormous dark shapes that blocked out stars as they moved. Jake could see them through the New Horizons telescopes, and each ship was larger than any structure humanity had ever built. President Carter tried one last diplomatic effort, broadcasting a message to the alien fleet requesting negotiations. The response came within minutes. Your time has expired early, the same Vorthak voice said. Your species has shown military preparations instead of compliance. Extermination begins now. The first energy beams struck Earth's major cities simultaneously. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, and dozens of other population centers were hit with weapons that made nuclear bombs look like firecrackers. Entire city blocks disappeared in seconds as the alien beams cut through buildings like they were made of paper. Jake watched the destruction through the ship's long-range sensors and felt sick. Billions of people were dying while he floated helplessly in space. Amy, are we receiving any transmissions from Earth? Yes, sir, but they're getting weaker. Most of the major communication centers have been destroyed. Admiral Clark's voice came through the static-filled transmission one last time. All ships, this is Admiral Clark. Earth is under attack. Repeat, Earth is under attack. All military vessels are ordered to engage the enemy. Civilian vessels should evacuate to safe distance. This is humanity's darkest hour. Don't let them win easily. Jake looked around at his crew of scientists and explorers. They weren't soldiers, but they were all that stood between the aliens and complete victory. Lisa, what do we know about their ship defenses? They appear to have energy shields that deflect our weapons. Our missiles and energy beams just bounce off without causing damage. Jake nodded and made the decision that would define the rest of his life. Amy, signal any other human ships in the area. We're going to make these aliens work for their victory. If this is humanity's last stand, let's make it count. 3 months had passed since the Vorthak attack began, and Earth looked like a dying planet. Smoke rose from the ruins of once great cities while alien ships patrolled the skies like metal vultures. Colonel Rick Martinez crouched behind a pile of rubble that used to be a shopping mall in Denver and watched a Vorthak patrol march down what remained of the main street. The aliens moved in perfect formation, with their plasma rifles held at the ready. They wore dark armor that seemed to absorb light, and their faces were hidden behind black helmets. Rick counted 12 of them walking in 2 straight lines like robots following a program. They always use the same pattern, whispered Sergeant Dan Cooper, who lay beside Rick in the debris. Same route, same timing, same formation every single day. Rick nodded as he studied the alien patrol through his binoculars. After 3 months of hiding and watching, the human survivors had learned something important about their enemies. The Vorthak were incredibly advanced, but they never changed their tactics. They followed the same procedures over and over again like machines. That's their weakness, Rick said quietly. They can't adapt. Deep beneath the ruins of Chicago, Dr. Lisa Harper worked in a hidden laboratory that had once been a subway tunnel. She bent over a workbench covered with pieces of alien technology that resistance fighters had recovered from destroyed Vorthak vehicles. Beside her, engineer Tony Walsh examined a damaged alien weapon through a magnifying glass. Look at this circuit pattern, Tony said, as he pointed to the inside of the plasma rifle. It's incredibly sophisticated, but it only works one way. There's no flexibility built into the design. Lisa wiped sweat from her forehead and looked at the alien technology spread across the table. Everything they build follows exact specifications. No variations, no improvements, no creative modifications. It's like their entire civilization runs on a rigid set of rules. In the tunnel behind them, dozens of human scientists and engineers worked by the light of battery-powered lamps. They had been studying captured Vorthak equipment for weeks, trying to understand how the alien technology functioned. Most of the devices were too advanced for humans to fully comprehend, but patterns were beginning to emerge. "I think I know why they're so predictable," Lisa said as she held up a small device that looked like a metal cube. "This is some kind of communication unit. It receives signals from their command ships and tells each individual alien exactly what to do. They don't make their own decisions." Tony took the device and examined it closely. "So they're like a hive mind? Each soldier is just following orders from a central computer?" "Something like that. But look at this." Lisa pointed to a series of markings on the device. "These symbols repeat in everything we've captured. I think they're frequency markers for the command signals." High above Earth, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of his damaged ship and looked at the tactical display showing alien vessel positions. The New Horizon had been hiding in the asteroid belt for 2 months, conducting hit-and-run attacks on Vorthak supply convoys. His crew of scientists had become reluctant warriors in humanity's desperate fight for survival. "Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from her position at the communications console, "we're receiving a coded transmission from Admiral Clark's underground command center." Jake leaned forward with interest. Admiral Ben Clark had been coordinating the global resistance from a secret base hidden somewhere in the Australian desert. Communication was dangerous because the Vorthak monitored all radio frequencies, but the Admiral occasionally sent brief coded messages to surviving military units. "Put it through." "Amy?" Admiral Clark's voice came through the static with urgent news. "All units, this is Outback Base. We have discovered a weakness in enemy ship defenses. Repeat, we have found a way to penetrate their shields. Dr. Harper's team in Chicago has identified the frequency that disrupts their defensive systems. Recommend all ships modify weapons to match transmitted specifications." Clark out. Jake turned to his science officer, Dr. Sam Rodriguez, who had been working on weapon modifications for weeks. "Sam, can we implement these changes? Give me 6 hours and I can retrofit our main plasma cannons to match those frequency specifications," Sam replied. "But Captain, we'll only get one chance. If this doesn't work, they'll adapt their defenses and we'll never get another shot." Meanwhile, on the surface of Earth, Lieutenant Kate Phillips led a small team of reconnaissance specialists through the ruins of Washington, D.C. They moved carefully between destroyed buildings, avoiding Vorthak patrols while gathering intelligence about alien operations. In the former capital lot, Kate had been a military intelligence officer before the invasion, and now she used those skills to study enemy behavior patterns. What she discovered gave her hope that humanity might still have a chance to win this war. "Sergeant Johnson," she whispered to the soldier following behind her, "have you noticed how the aliens react when we change our tactics?" "What do you mean, Lieutenant?" "Yesterday we attacked their checkpoint from the north like we always do. They responded immediately with standard defensive positions, but when we attacked from the south this morning, it took them almost 10 minutes to reorganize. They seemed confused." Sergeant Johnson nodded thoughtfully. "Like they didn't know what to do when we didn't follow our usual pattern." "Exactly. They're programmed to fight enemies who behave predictably, but humans don't follow programs. We adapt and improvise." Kate's team reached their objective, a destroyed government building where the aliens had established a processing center. Through her binoculars, she watched human prisoners being loaded onto transport ships. The Vorthak were systematically cataloging survivors before sending them to unknown destinations. What caught Kate's attention was how the alien guards reacted when prisoners did something unexpected. When humans cried, argued, or tried to help each other, the Vorthak seemed uncertain about how to respond. Their standard procedures didn't account for emotional behavior. Back in the Chicago Underground Laboratory, Lisa Harper made a breakthrough that would change everything. While examining the alien communication device, she accidentally dropped it and damaged the internal circuits. Instead of breaking completely, the device began broadcasting a signal that interfered with other Vorthak equipment in the lab. "Tony, look at this," she called excitedly as alien weapons and sensors began malfunctioning around the damaged communicator. "The disrupted frequency is causing a cascade failure in their systems." Tony hurried over and watched as sophisticated alien technology shut down one piece at a time. "It's like a virus spreading through their network. The damaged signal is corrupting their other devices." Lisa's mind raced with possibilities. What if we could broadcast this disruption signal to their ships? If their communication system is truly centralized, we might be able to affect their entire fleet. In space, Captain Morrison received new orders from Admiral Clark. Earth's remaining military commanders had developed a desperate plan based on Dr. Harper's discoveries. Human ships would coordinate simultaneous attacks on Vorthak vessels, while broadcasting the disruptive frequency that interfered with alien systems. "Captain," Amy reported from her station, "we're receiving confirmation signals from 17 other human ships. They're all in position and ready to begin the attack." Jake looked around at his crew of brave men and women who had spent months learning to fight an enemy far more advanced than themselves. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the aliens didn't understand: the ability to think creatively and adapt to any situation. "All right, people," Jake said as he activated the ship's combat systems. "Let's show these aliens what humans do when we're backed into a corner. We fight back." Dr. Lisa Harper stood in the expanded underground laboratory beneath Chicago and watched the first successful test of humanity's new hybrid weapon. The device combined captured Vorthak plasma technology with human engineering modifications that the aliens had never considered possible. When Tony Walsh fired the prototype at a piece of alien armor, the metal simply disappeared in a flash of blue light. "It works perfectly," Tony said with amazement as he examined the weapon. "The plasma beam is 3 times more powerful than standard Vorthak rifles, and it doesn't require their command network to function." Lisa smiled for the first time in months as she looked at the dozen hybrid weapons lined up on the workbench. Her team of scientists had worked day and night to reverse engineer alien technology, while adding human improvements that made the weapons more flexible and deadly. The aliens build everything to exact specifications. Lisa explained to the group of resistance fighters who had come to collect the new weapons. They never consider that someone might modify their designs, but humans have always been good at taking existing technology and making it better. Colonel Rick Martinez held one of the hybrid weapons and felt its weight. The device was lighter than a standard human rifle, but far more powerful than anything Earth's military had possessed before the invasion. "How many of these can you produce?" "With the alien materials we've captured, maybe 200 weapons per week," Tony replied. "It's not enough to arm every resistance fighter, but it's a start." Rick nodded and thought about how to use these new weapons most effectively. His resistance cells had been growing stronger as more survivors joined the fight against the Vorthak occupation. The aliens controlled the major cities and transportation networks, but they struggled to maintain control over the countryside where human fighters could move freely and strike without warning. "We'll target their supply convoys first," Rick decided. "Take out their ammunition and equipment shipments. Force them to spread their forces thin, trying to protect everything." Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison floated in space near Jupiter's largest moon and watched his expanded fleet prepare for their most ambitious operation yet. The New Horizon had been joined by 15 other human ships that had survived the initial Vorthak attack. Most were damaged civilian vessels that had been converted into makeshift warships, but their crews were determined to strike back at their enemies. Lieutenant Chris Baker sat in the cockpit of his modified fighter craft and checked the hybrid weapon systems that Dr. Rodriguez had installed. The young pilot had become one of humanity's best space combat specialists by developing tactics that no Vorthak computer could predict or counter. "Captain Morrison," Chris said over the communication system, "my fighter squadron is ready for the attack. We've practiced the new maneuvers, and I think we can confuse their targeting systems." Jake looked at the tactical display showing Vorthak patrol routes around the gas giant. The aliens followed the same patterns every day, checking the same locations at the same times with mechanical precision. Human pilots had learned to exploit this predictability by using irregular flight paths and unexpected attack angles. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison," Jake announced to his small fleet. "Remember, we hit fast and hard, then disappear before they can organize a response. Don't try to fight their entire fleet. We're here to prove that humans can hurt them." On Earth's surface, Lieutenant Kate Phillips crouched behind the remains of a highway overpass and watched a Vorthak processing facility through her binoculars. The aliens had converted a former shopping center into a sorting station where human prisoners were evaluated and shipped to unknown destinations. Kate had spent weeks studying this facility and learning the routines of the alien guards. She knew exactly when they changed shifts, which routes they patrolled, and how they responded to different types of threats. More importantly, she had discovered something that gave the Resistance a crucial advantage. "Sergeant Johnson," she whispered to her second-in-command, "do you see how the guards react when prisoners fight back?" Johnson studied the facility through his own binoculars and watched as human captives were herded toward transport vehicles. When one prisoner tried to help an injured child, the Vorthak guards seemed uncertain about how to respond. They had protocols for dealing with escape attempts and violent resistance, but they didn't know how to handle acts of compassion or self-sacrifice. "They freeze up when humans do something unexpected," Johnson observed. "Like their programming doesn't account for emotional behavior." Kate smiled grimly as she prepared her team for the rescue mission. "That's exactly right. The aliens understand violence and submission, but they can't predict human kindness or creativity. We're going to use that against them." In the underground command center beneath the Australian desert, Admiral Ben Clark studied reports from resistance cells around the world. The information painted a picture of an enemy that was powerful but inflexible, advanced but predictable. Most importantly, the report showed that humans were learning to fight back effectively. Computer specialist Megan Turner worked at a bank of salvaged equipment, analyzing intercepted Vorthak communications. The young woman had become expert at decoding alien signals, and her latest discovery was the most important breakthrough yet. "Admiral," Megan called out excitedly, "I found something incredible in their command network. The entire Vorthak fleet operates on a centralized control system. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier receives orders from a master command vessel." Admiral Clark hurried over to examine Megan's findings. "Are you saying they have a single point of failure?" "Yes, sir. If we could somehow disable or infiltrate their main command ship, we could potentially disrupt their entire military operation. The individual Vorthak soldiers and ship crews don't seem capable of independent action." Admiral Clark felt hope rising in his chest for the first time since the invasion began. What would it take to reach their command vessel? Megan pulled up a tactical display showing Vorthak fleet positions. The command ship stays in the center of their formation, protected by at least 50 other vessels. It would be a suicide mission to attack it directly. Unless we could get inside without them knowing, Admiral Clark mused. What if we captured one of their transport ships and used it to approach the command vessel? Dr. Sam Rodriguez had been listening to the conversation from his workstation nearby. "Admiral, I've been working on something that might help. Based on Dr. Harper's research, I think we can create a computer virus that would spread through their communication network. If we could upload it to their command ship, it might infect their entire fleet." Admiral Clark looked around at the dedicated men and women who had spent months developing ways to fight an seemingly invincible enemy. "How long would you need to prepare this virus?" 2 weeks, maybe 3, Sam replied. "But we'd need to get very close to their command ship to upload it directly. Their network security is too sophisticated for remote infiltration." "Then we'll get close," Admiral Clark decided. "Megan, I want you to identify the best opportunity to capture a Vorthak transport intact. Sam, start working on that virus immediately. Everyone else, begin planning the most important mission in human history." Back in space, Captain Morrison's fleet struck the Vorthak patrol with devastating effectiveness. Human pilots used maneuvers that alien computers couldn't predict, while hybrid weapons tore through enemy shields like they were made of paper. The battle was over in minutes with 3 Vorthak ships destroyed and no human casualties. "Captain," Amy reported from her communication station, "we're receiving congratulations from Resistance. Cells on Earth. Our attack was visible from the surface and it's boosting morale everywhere." Jake looked at the debris field, where Vorthak warships had been destroyed by human ingenuity and determination. "Signal Admiral Clark. Tell him we've proven that these aliens can be beaten. Now we need to figure out how to beat all of them." Operation Prometheus began at exactly midnight, when Colonel Rick Martinez led simultaneous attacks on 12 Vorthak processing centers across North America. Human fighters armed with hybrid weapons struck the alien facilities with precision and fury, while rescue teams evacuated thousands of prisoners who had been waiting for transport to unknown destinations. The coordinated ground assault was designed to draw Vorthak attention away from space where the real mission would take place. Rick's teams moved through the ruins of major cities like ghosts, hitting targets and disappearing before alien reinforcements could respond. "All teams report successful strikes," Sergeant Dan Cooper announced over the encrypted radio network. Enemy forces are mobilizing ground units to pursue our fighters. Rick smiled grimly as he watched Vorthak troop transports descending from orbit to reinforce their threatened facilities. Every alien soldier sent to the surface was one less defender protecting their fleet in space. Perfect. Signal Admiral Clark that the distraction is working. High above Earth, Captain Jake Morrison commanded the largest human fleet assembled since the invasion began. 37 ships of various sizes floated in formation near the moon, preparing for the most desperate mission in human history. Most were civilian vessels converted to carry weapons, but their crews were volunteers who understood the stakes. Captain, Lieutenant Amy Foster reported from her station, we have confirmation that the Vorthak command ship is moving into position above the Pacific Ocean. It's surrounded by 46 escort vessels in a standard defensive formation. Jake studied the tactical display showing the massive alien command vessel at the center of a protective screen of warships. The target was easily 5 times larger than any human ship and bristled with weapons that could destroy his entire fleet in minutes. Chris, are your pilots ready for this? Jake asked Lieutenant Chris Baker, who would lead the fighter squadrons that would create chaos among the alien escort ships. Yes, sir, Chris replied confidently. We've practiced these maneuvers for weeks. My pilots know exactly how to confuse their targeting systems and draw fire away from the infiltration team. The infiltration team consisted of Lieutenant Kate Phillips and 5 specialists who would attempt to board the Vorthak command ship using a captured alien transport. Hidden in the transport's cargo bay, Dr. Lisa Harper carried the quantum virus that computer specialist Megan Turner had spent 3 weeks perfecting. Remember, Lisa said to the team as they made final preparations, we only get one chance to upload this virus. If their security systems detect us before we reach the central computer core, the entire mission fails. Kate checked her hybrid weapon one last time and looked at her team of volunteers. Each person knew this was likely a one-way mission, but they also knew that failure meant the extinction of the human race. We've studied their ship layouts from captured data. The computer core should be 12 levels down from the main docking bay. Stay together and move fast. The battle began when Chris Baker's fighter squadron swept down on the Vorthak escort ships like a swarm of angry hornets. Human pilots flew patterns that no alien computer could predict, weaving between enemy vessels and forcing the Vorthak to fire on their own ships when they missed their targets. This is Baker Squadron Leader, Chris announced over the communication system. We have their attention. Beginning attack run on the outer perimeter ships. Jake watched the space battle unfold on his tactical display as human fighters engaged the alien escort fleet. The Vorthak ships responded with massive firepower, but their rigid tactical programming made them vulnerable to creative human strategies. Amy, signal the infiltration team, Jake ordered. They have a clear approach to the command ship. The captured Vorthak transport, piloted by Sergeant Johnson, approached the massive command vessel, using standard alien identification codes that Megan Turner had extracted from their communication network. To external sensors, it appeared to be a routine supply delivery returning from the surface. We're passing through their outer defenses, Johnson reported quietly. No signs that they suspect anything unusual. Inside the transport's cargo compartment, Kate and her team prepared for combat, while Lisa protected the portable computer system containing the quantum virus. The device was humanity's greatest technological achievement, combining human creativity with alien processing power to create a weapon that could destroy the Vorthak from within. The transport docked with the command ship. Without incident, and alien cargo handlers began their routine unloading procedures. They expected to find supplies and equipment from Earth's surface, but instead they found 6 humans armed with hybrid weapons who struck with lethal efficiency. Move fast and stay quiet, Kate whispered as her team eliminated the alien dock workers and moved deeper into the ship. We need to reach the computer core before they realize what's happening. The Vorthak command ship was a maze of corridors and chambers filled with alien technology that hummed with barely contained energy. Kate's team moved through the passages using maps created from captured intelligence, while avoiding the regular patrols of alien security forces. Meanwhile, the space battle raged outside as Captain Morrison's fleet engaged the Vorthak escort ships. Human vessels used hit-and-run tactics that frustrated the aliens' attempts to establish organized defensive lines. Captain, Amy reported with excitement, 3 enemy escort ships have collided while trying to intercept our fighters. Their formation is breaking apart. Jake smiled as he watched alien vessels struggle to adapt to human combat tactics. All ships concentrate fire on the damaged vessels. Let's thin out their numbers. Deep inside the command ship, Kate's team reached the heavily guarded entrance to the central computer core. Alien security forces blocked their path with energy barriers and automated weapon systems that fired deadly plasma bolts. There are too many of them, one of Kate's specialists said as enemy fire forced the team to take cover behind a bulkhead. We'll never get through their defenses. Lisa looked at the portable computer containing the virus and made a desperate decision.
Kate, I need to get within 50 meters of their central processor.
The virus can be transmitted through their local network if I can establish a direct connection. Kate studied the corridor ahead where dozens of alien guards waited behind defensive positions. That's suicide. You'll never make it through their security line. Maybe not, Lisa replied as she activated the virus upload system. But I have to try. This is what we came here to do. The final assault began when Kate's team launched their attack on the alien security forces, while Lisa ran toward the computer core carrying the quantum virus. Enemy plasma bolts filled the air around her as she sprinted through the corridor. But human determination carried her forward even as alien weapons found their mark. Lisa reached the central computer core and connected her device to the alien network, just as Vorthak. Security forces overwhelmed Kate's position. With her last breath, she activated the virus upload and watched as human code began spreading through the alien system like digital wildfire. Upload complete, she whispered into her communicator before the world went dark around her. The quantum virus spread through the Vorthak command network like lightning racing through metal wires. Within minutes of Dr. Lisa Harper's upload, alien systems across the galaxy began experiencing cascading failures that no Vorthak engineer had ever seen before. Computer specialist Megan Turner's code was a masterpiece of human creativity that turned the aliens' greatest strength into their ultimate weakness. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the New Horizon as the massive Vorthak command ship suddenly went dark. The enormous vessel that had been coordinating the alien fleet stopped moving, and its weapon systems powered down completely. Around it, escort ships drifted aimlessly as their connection to the central command network disappeared. Captain, Lieutenant Amy Foster called out from her communication station. We're receiving distress signals from Vorthak ships throughout the solar system. Their communications are completely scrambled. Jake stared at the tactical display in amazement as red dots representing alien vessels began winking out one by one. Ships that had terrorized humanity for months were now floating helplessly in space as their computer systems crashed under the assault of human-designed code. All human ships. This is Captain Morrison, Jake announced over the fleet communications network. The virus is working. Repeat, the virus is working. All vessels are authorized to engage disabled enemy targets. Lieutenant Chris Baker led his fighter squadrons in a devastating attack on the crippled Vorthak fleet. Human pilots who had spent months running and hiding from superior alien technology now found themselves facing enemies who could barely control their own ships. This is Baker Squadron Leader, Chris reported with excitement in his voice. Enemy vessels are not responding to our attacks. Their defensive systems appear to be completely offline. On Earth's surface, Colonel Rick Martinez emerged from the ruins of Denver and looked up at the sky where Vorthak patrol ships were falling like burning meteors. The alien aircraft that had dominated the skies for months were now crashing into empty fields as their pilots lost control of their failing systems. All resistance cells. This is Colonel Martinez, Rick broadcast over the emergency network. Enemy ground forces are in complete disarray. Begin immediate offensive operations against all Vorthak positions. Throughout the world, human fighters who had been hiding in underground tunnels and ruined buildings came pouring out to attack confused alien soldiers. The Vorthak ground forces, cut off from their command network, wandered around their bases like lost children unable to make basic decisions. Sergeant Dan Cooper led his team in an assault on the processing center that had held thousands of human prisoners. The alien guards offered no resistance as their weapons refused to function, and their communication systems broadcast nothing but static. The aliens just gave up, Cooper reported in amazement. They're not even trying to fight back. It's like they forgot how to be soldiers. Deep beneath Chicago, Tony Walsh monitored the spreading chaos through intercepted alien communications. The engineer watched in fascination as the virus infected Vorthak systems across multiple star systems, reaching far beyond Earth to affect the aliens' home territories. The virus isn't just affecting their ships here, Tony announced to the other scientists in the underground laboratory. It's spreading through their entire interstellar communication network. We're receiving failure reports from Vorthak colonies, hundreds of light years away. Admiral Ben Clark stood in his command center beneath the Australian desert and watched reports flooding in from around the globe. Human resistance cells were reporting the complete collapse of Vorthak military operations on every continent. The aliens who had seemed invincible just hours before were now defenseless against even the smallest human attacks. Megan, Admiral Clark called to the computer specialist who had created the virus. Exactly what is happening to their systems? Megan Turner looked up from her monitors with the expression of amazed satisfaction. The virus is rewriting their command protocols faster than their computers can process the changes. Every time their systems try to adapt, the virus creates new variations that cause additional failures. It's like a digital plague that gets stronger as it spreads. In space around Earth, the Vorthak fleet had become a collection of drifting hulks. Ships that had once moved with mechanical precision now tumbled helplessly through orbit as their crews struggled to understand what had happened to their technology. Captain Morrison ordered his fleet to begin systematic destruction of the disabled alien vessels. Human ships that had been running and hiding for months now methodically eliminated their helpless enemies with weapons that the aliens had never expected humans to possess. Captain, Amy reported, we're receiving surrender transmissions from several Vorthak vessels. They're asking for mercy. Jake thought about the billions of humans who had died during the initial invasion and the months of terror that followed. The aliens had shown no mercy when they held the advantage, but humans were different than the Vorthak in ways that truly mattered. Signal all human ships, Jake ordered. Accept the surrender of any Vorthak vessel that powers down completely and ejects their weapons. We're not like them. We don't kill helpless enemies. Lieutenant Kate Phillips had been declared dead after the mission to infiltrate the command ship, but she had survived the final battle in the alien vessel's corridors. Vorthak security forces had simply stopped fighting when their command network failed, allowing Kate and the surviving members of her team to escape in the confusion. This is Lieutenant Phillips. She reported over the communication system as she piloted a captured alien shuttle away from the command ship. Dr. Harper's sacrifice worked. The virus upload was successful and the entire Vorthak fleet is disabled. The news of Kate's survival and confirmation of the virus's success spread through human forces like wildfire. Resistance fighters around the world cheered as they realized that humanity had not only survived the alien invasion, but had completely defeated their enemies. Over the following days, the scope of human victory became clear. The quantum virus had infected every Vorthak system connected to their communication network, effectively destroying their entire technological civilization. Alien colonies throughout the galaxy lost the ability to coordinate their activities or maintain their advanced equipment. Admiral Clark established contact with other species that had been enslaved by the Vorthak and discovered that the virus had freed dozens of worlds from alien domination. Civilizations that had been conquered centuries ago suddenly found their oppressors helpless and confused. We didn't just save Earth, Admiral Clark announced in his first public broadcast since the invasion began. We liberated an entire galaxy from Vorthak tyranny. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars with new understanding. Humanity had learned that they were not alone in the universe, but they had also proven that human creativity, determination, and courage could overcome any threat. The species that had dared to attack Earth and demand humanity's surrender had made a fatal error. They had underestimated not just human technology or military capability, but the fundamental human refusal to accept defeat. When faced with extinction, humans had not despaired or given up. Instead, they had adapted, innovated, and fought back with everything they possessed. Construction began immediately on humanity's first interstellar fleet, using captured Vorthak technology combined with human improvements. Earth would take its place in the galaxy not as victims of alien aggression, but as protectors of freedom and defenders of those who could not defend themselves. The Vorthak had wanted to exterminate humanity because they saw humans as primitive and worthless. They discovered too late that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or weapons, but their absolute refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds.